Hi there. Today we're doing our discussion on attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, otherwise known as ADHD. We're going to start this discussion just a little bit about what ADHD is. So ADHD is a condition in which a student has chronic and serious inattentiveness, hyperactivity, or impulsivity. Sorry, hard word to say. So inattentiveness is going to be a student that really, they're in the presentation or in the class, and then they just lose focus for whatever reason. And this happens quite often, which makes it chronic. Hyperactivity being a student that can't sit still. They're constantly twiddling their thumbs or tapping a pencil or whatever it may be. And then impulsivity is going to be when a student just starts doing random things. They might just randomly start talking very loudly or get up out of their chair and start moving with no reason whatsoever. So there's three types of ADHD. There's students that are predominantly inattentive. They have less of that hyperactivity and impulsivity, but they lose attention very often. And we got students that are predominantly hyperactive or impulsive, and with this type, they are usually better at paying attention. And then we got the combined ADHD, which has a little bit of both. They're inattentive, hyperactive, and impulsive, all in the same. So one of the characteristics with ADHD is that these students don't develop their executive functions properly. There's four main ones that we talk about. So working memory, or sort of students losing focus about what they're doing. They're on the task, and then all of a sudden they forget what they're doing. They forget when it's due. Self-directed speech is the ability to talk to yourself and get yourself to get something done. And students with ADHD might not be able to do this. They may not be able to have that little directed discussion with themselves. Some of them can't control their emotions or their motivation. So they'll be there working on a task, and then they just suddenly don't want to do it anymore. They've lost their motivation, and they're going to stop doing it. And then that reconstitution, or the ability to take something that you know and apply it to another scenario, such as the book gives an example of a student knowing that they got to talk quietly in class, but then when they're in the halls or in the lunchroom or any other scenario that's not their classroom, they start talking louder because they can't make that connection and realize that they need to be quiet in those other school settings as well. So there's 5 interventions for students with ADHD to help them out. First is going to be behavior interventions. And the big thing here is we really want to emphasize structure and rewards. And I see on here appropriate rewards because there are some that are not as good as others. For example, giving a piece of candy to a kid every time they do something right, or that operative conditioning, it's great for short-term changes in behavior, but it doesn't foster long-term. We want authentic, intrinsic motivation to happen. So give them praise when they do great things. Give them a little bit more responsibility when they do good things. Stuff that makes them intrinsically want to continue to do better. We should only use reprimands when needed. So you want more rewards, more praise, less reprimands. But you do need to use them when it's needed. When it is time to reprimand a student, when they've done something wrong, you want to consider their environmental needs first. Or is the student all the way in the back of the classroom where they can see all the distractions around them, which is causing them to lose focus? If that's the case, move the student up front and eliminate that. But then, if this doesn't work and you've eliminated all the issues that are the environmental issues that might cause a student to act out, then you do need to reprimand the student. And in that case, when that happens, it needs to be clear and direct. You need to be to the point. Sally, you're talking. I need you to please stop talking. And don't go into extra words. Just leave it at that. Parent education. So, as a teacher, you're not in charge of parents going and getting an education, but you can give them opportunities. So invite them to a teacher-led session that you might be leading. Find them some other educational opportunities out in the community. By doing these, you're going to increase collaboration with parents, increase the trust that they have in you because you show they care for them. And that just increases that school and home collaboration. I found one article that talks about a parent training on nonviolent interventions for their children. And through this training, the parents that took this, they found increased they increased their confidence, so they weren't as helpless. They felt like they knew what to do with their students. They eliminated family chaos. There wasn't as many issues happening in their house because of the interventions they learned. They were able to increase the amount of consistent routines they had. And because of all this better environment in their home, it increased their self-control as they realized that this is their environment. Home is the parents' environment. They have control over it, and it just made it an all-around better environment, as I saw through that article. Medication. So this intervention is the one intervention on this list that a teacher cannot say a student needs this. A teacher cannot walk up to a parent and say, your child needs medication, or even suggest it. That's between a parent and a psychologist. What a teacher can do is be aware of signs of maybe misuse or anything else with medication. So just some statistics. So 70% of ADHD students between the age, I believe, of 7 and 17 do take medication. And this medication is good for supporting other interventions such as behavior interventions and parent educations. However, their concerns do lie within them also. There's the concern that students are sharing their medication with other students who don't need it, which could create very addictive habits for the students. So it's just something to be aware of if students bring their medication to school, that there needs to be a way to control this medication. Medication can sometimes cause lethargy, just lack of care or interest in school, just makes students not care about anything anymore. This is the same thing for depression medicine, anxiety medication, so that's just something to be aware of. Make sure that students are able to remain engaged, that the medicine's helping them, not harming them in the long run. And then we need to be mindful of side effects for students. Is their weight increasing from these medications? Is it making them more disruptive? Is it making them tired so they sleep in class? Just things to be notice about these students who are on medications. Some academic interventions that are very helpful for these students. When giving instructions, teachers need to ensure they're only giving the essential information to students. That's pretty simple and straightforward. Teachers can't be going off on tangents when giving instructions. Otherwise, they're going to lose students with ADHD, especially the ones that are the inattentive type. When it comes to readings, a lot of these students can't pay attention for long periods of readings. So with students with ADHD, you want to break up the readings. If it's a 10-page summary of the reading, give them a couple pages and then do some probing questions. Have them make sure they have an understanding, and then have them continue reading a bit by bit by bit. As it goes with math, especially with those the students who are inattentive and they lose their focus, or the students who are hyperactive and they end up doing weird other things like tapping their pencils or stuff that can distract them, they're going to need more time on math. And that's completely okay. We just need to make sure we're giving them those, providing those accommodations for them based on the Section 504. And then lastly, variety of participation in whole class discussions. So discussions, just like readings, need to be broken up. We're not wanting to sit there and have 20, 30-minute conversations and discussion with our students without breaking up with activities. Give them 10 minutes of a discussion and then have them do a group activity. Another 10 minutes and maybe work some problems. But we're breaking that up and giving them a variety of interactions with other students and a variety of activities during the discussions. And then lastly, we have environmental supports. So students with ADHD, obviously, they can get distracted very easily. So we want to keep them closer to the front of the classroom so that distractions on the sides and the back of the classroom aren't facing them. They can't get distracted by them. There will still be some things in the front of the room to see, but it's limiting that, limiting those distractions. Another way we can limit distractions are desk corrals. Those desk corrals are they're like sort of barriers. We have two in the front and then maybe two on the sides and then one on the front. So it's eliminating all these distractions around them. Those are good for tests, individual activities at their desk, readings at their desk, anything where they're individually working so they don't have to see all these other things going on around them. Clear and concise expectations. We want expectations that are to the point. Try your best. Be respectful. Things like that. We don't need drawn out, long types of expectations because the students are just going to get distracted by them. Keep it short and to the point. And that falls in with consistent routines. We need to set up classrooms with consistent routines. And this was the same thing with ASD and all these other disorders that we had. Start with an opening, have some activity, guided practice, closing. If you repeat that over and over, you can still have classes that are classes that use different techniques, but by keeping it in that structure, these students aren't getting distracted. They know what they're walking into. And then lastly, limit time on tasks. We don't want to give activities that are going to last the whole class period. Otherwise, students are going to lose their focus. So give them shorter activities throughout each class period. So lastly, families of children with ADHD. So these families are going to have significantly higher stress. They got kids that are running around, not paying attention, just like they're being attentive and not listening as well to us as teachers. They're doing this at home also, most likely. So because of this, these found an article that states that especially mothers of children with ADHD are at a much higher risk of depressive symptoms than mothers of children who don't have ADHD. In fact, they found in their study that 17.09% of mothers of children with ADHD develop depressive symptoms within 1 year of their child getting ADHD. And it's higher with children who are the inattentive type. Those mothers are going to have higher signs of those depressive symptoms. So as teachers, we need to be there supporting those parents because they have a tough task. We have the children until 2:30 or 3 every day. The parents have them 24/7. So we need to be mindful and supportive of those parents. Furthermore, balance is required. We don't want to blame parents for any of the misbehaviors that their students have. But furthermore, we also don't want to condone any inappropriate behaviors. So we don't want a student who starts talking and disrupting everybody, and then they say, well, my parents let me do this at home. What they do at home is their parents' business. But when they're in the classroom, they have to follow the same expectations every other student, and we need to make sure we're following those, even if they're allowed to do it at home. So anyway, that was a little bit about ADHD. Here are my sources. Thanks for watching and have a great day.